another edition of Fried and True. Been going on quite a few months now, and I'm not getting tired of it, and I hope you guys aren't either. Today I'm doing one of my favorite things to make. It's a really fun dish. It's extravagant and homey and comforty all in one. We're going to do lobster mac and cheese tonight, and I'll review all the ingredients. So I have a base recipe for this, which I'll tell you about as we go, but what I wanted to do, because I've made this a lot, and so I wanted to kind of see what I could do with it and really make it extra decadent. I'm not sure if lobster mac and cheese needs to be extra decadent, but we're going to try it. But first we're going to start with a cocktail, as always. The cocktails have sort of developed into a theme of what I think are underrepresented or forgotten or just underappreciated cocktails. I mean, you know, we did the martini, and yeah, that's pretty popular, but I like the lesser known cocktails, maybe ones that have been forgotten, that aren't quite as trendy or popular. We did martini and Manhattans, and I forgot about one. There's kind of that holy trinity of those original stirred cocktails. And in a martini, you have a Manhattan, and you have a Negroni, which is not in the title of the stream tonight. So Negroni is named after the Italian Count Camillo Negroni, who in Florence in the early 20th century told the bartender at his favorite bar, and I forget the name of it, he wanted his Americano, which is made with soda, to be stronger. So he told the bartender to swap the soda for gin, which makes total sense to me. Just why wouldn't you? And spawned the popular Negroni cocktail. And the reason I really like this cocktail is because it's a technique. So we're gonna go through the basic Negroni, and we'll talk about it as I mix it up. I lost my spoon. Anyway, it's gin, as we just talked about, sweet vermouth, and Campari. I really did lose my spoon. Hang on. Okay, so there are many, many, many variations of this cocktail. If you substitute gin for bourbon, you get a Boulevardier, I think, which is a very popular cocktail in New Orleans. You can swap mezcal for the base spirit, and it doesn't really have a special name, but it's also really good. You can use different kinds of vermouth. I quite like this vermouth Dolan. Cinzano is another vermouth you can get that's really popular in at least this area. I stay away from Martini and Rossi. I just don't like it, but if that's your thing, try it. Try different vermouths. The one thing you can't mess with, though, is Campari. This is the heart of the dish. If you drink. If you take Campari out, it's not a Negroni anymore, or even a variation. So here you go. We're gonna mix this up. This is a super simple drink to make. And you can also, I tend to go a little more on the gin and a little less. So this is the traditional recipe is 1-1-1, which is what I'm going to do for you guys tonight. However, the traditional, you can mess with the ratios a bit. If I'm really making these for myself, I use a little less sweet vermouth and a little more gin, and I leave the Campari at 1 ounce. Sweet vermouth's really sweet, and especially in the hot summer, it's might be a little much. However, it's now fall, so we're making a fall drink. This is the most amazing color, Campari. It's quite bitter. So there you go. There's the Campari. You see the color. And then we are just going to give that a stir. And again, the reason we stir this with ice is to chill the drink, but also to dilute it slightly. Just takes the edge off the harshness of the alcohol. Now, this particular drink is served over ice, but you don't chill and serve with the same ice. And we're just going to let that sit for just a sec. Okay. And then just strain over ice into a rocks glass. And that is the Negroni. Now I like the traditional garnish is a bit of orange peel. I don't blame you, Smooshy. Give your orange peel like a squeeze or two to get the oils out, and then top it in. If you want to do something really fancy, which is kind of fun, you can actually ignite the oil. If you squeeze it just right in front of a match, it'll shoot flames into your drink, which is also kind of neat. So that's the traditional garnish. I add a maraschino cherry because I pretty much add this to every cocktail I possibly can. And it's quite often served with the maraschino cherry, so I'm going to do it because I really like them. Cheers, everybody. This is the Negroni cocktail. That's really good. I recommend sipping these slow, though, because it's basically 3 ounces of hard alcohol. Okay. Wow. That is a strong drink. Okay, on to ingredients. So we're doing a lobster mac and cheese. And I love this dish because it showcases so many important techniques for cooking. It starts with a Mornay sauce, which is a bechamel with cheese. So it starts, we're going to do a roux. So as I said, I wanted to punch this up, make it more hedonistic, because I was just in that kind of mood this week. So I have organic butter here, which I quite like. It's a little more expensive. But don't neglect butter. People neglect their butter. And Gailey, which we get here in Ontario, is a fantastic butter. No question. But don't be afraid to experiment with more expensive butters. This stuff is like $11 a pound, so it's a little more expensive. Does it taste better? I mean, it does to me. You'll have to decide for yourself. Spread it on some toast and do a comparison. It's the only way you can tell. This is just regular flour. I couldn't figure out a way to punch up flour. I mean, it's flour, right? Okay. There's also garlic in this dish, and I have two versions. Ooh, that's still hot. Drag this over slowly. Okay. So this we've talked about before. This is a garlic confit, and I mix this up a big batch at a time. Get the peeled garlic in the bag, put it in a little dish with some olive oil. You put it in the oven for a couple hours around 250, and you end up with the garlic confit. It's amazing in everything. I always have this in my fridge. You can use the oils, a flavored oil to cook with, which we're going to do tonight. You can use the cloves. They add a really subtle flavor. In like a carbonara, you want that fresh, in-your-face garlic flavor. But you don't always want that. If you want a subtle, deeper flavor, which is what we're going for here, confit of garlic can be the way to go. Now, I wasn't totally sure about the confit of garlic, so I also I just roasted a garlic clove, and this is really easy to do too. Obviously, you just cut the top off and pour oil over it. This is a much higher temperature. You do this about 400-ish, pretty hot, and for about an hour. If it starts to smoke, it's going too long. I haven't totally decided which one we're going to use yet, so if you guys have any ideas or suggestions, throw it into the chat. At the very start of this dish, we're going to saute some shallots in some of the flavored garlic oil to get started. Milk is milk. Always use whole milk. Don't use 2% or 1% or anything like that. We get great milk here. This is fantastic. No problem. And normally for a mac and cheese, I would be using... my standard go-to is half Jack, half cheddar. So usually around 4 ounces of Monterey Jack, 4 ounces of a nice cheddar is great for every mac and cheese you're going to make. However, we were in the spirit of punch it up, and I got this stuff. This is Petit Basque. This is a sheep's milk cheese from the Basque region of Spain. It has this little label on it here. You guys can see. You can get this at most good cheese places. You need half to serve 4. It's not cheap. The whole round's about $50, a little bit more maybe, but I think it's worth it. Smells amazing. Banana Socks and I already had a little nibble. It tastes great just the way it is, but this is going to be our only cheese. Yeah, surprise. Well, you looked at the price on the bottom. but totally worth it. Just a fantastic cheese to work with. Okay, so any questions so far on? We've talked about the ingredients. We talked about cheese. So the cheese was the first one I wanted to talk about, and the pasta. So normally I would use macaroni. Put back here. Normally I would use macaroni, but macaroni is made with semolina flour and water. If you get it in the box, and there are some fantastic boxed pastas you can get. If you're making mac and cheese and you don't want to make fresh pasta, boxed pasta is just fine. I think my go-to is Barilla, the blue box brand. If the shape you want, my toe. If the shape you want is available in the PC Black Label boxes, try that. I'm not a big fan of Loblaws or President's Choice, really, but wherever they source that pasta from is really good. But I do have a new toy, which I can show you, and I wanted a spiral pasta for this. So this is gemelli, and you can see it's like a spiral. And the reason I want a spiral is this will catch so much more sauce. So you just get more sauce per bit of pasta, and that sounds maybe like overkill, but trust me, it's not. Definitely the way to go. So to make this at home, we've done sheet pasta before, where we had the KitchenAid, we rolled out the pasta dough, and we cut it into, probably we did linguine, but you can do fettuccine, depending on whatever cutters you have. That's, these guys here, it goes through the flat rollers, and then you run it through your cutter. This is a spaghetti cutter, which I also use for ramen noodles, and it works great. But you can't do extruded shapes. So macaroni, rotini, gemelli, fusilli, whatever you want to call it, those are all extruded shapes, and they're made differently. They go through a machine. This is the home version here. This works just like a meat grinder. You know those old. This has a crank. I don't have it here. A hand crank meat grinder. I don't know if you can see inside here. There's a little spiral thing that forces your pasta dough through the front. This is for macaroni, ironically, which I don't have here. And you just cut it off as it comes out. So it pushes the dough through, like when you played with Play-Doh as a kid. It's exactly the same thing. And this machine took a little bit of practice to get used to. My first attempt was a disaster, and there was much cursing involved. But I kind of got the hang of it. And that's the other thing I wanted to talk about. Oh, I'm going to go on so many tangents tonight. It's great. I was thinking about pasta dough and the recipe for pasta dough, because all pasta dough is the same. It is some dry ingredients, flour, and some wet ingredients. Now, box pasta is made from semolina flour and water. But it's the ratio of the liquid ingredients that's important. So you don't need to memorize anything except one number. So the dough that works best for that machine is a 40% hydration dough, which means by weight, there's 40% of the weight is liquid. It doesn't matter whether it's water. You can put a little bit of oil in. This is an egg pasta. So this is where I decided to make it a little more luxurious. Is instead of water, I used eggs, and it turned out great. The machine didn't like it a whole lot. It was tough to go through, but here we are. So I got 2 trays of this, and this is the pasta we're going to use tonight. So this will be a lot richer tasting than just a water-based pasta, and I think it's going to be great. Now, if you want to make lobster mac and cheese, you don't have to do this. Get a box of macaroni. It's going to work great. So I'm going to put this over on the stove for a sec. And we are going to move on to, we did the egg, we did the cheese, lobster. So, my rule on lobster is never eat a lobster you didn't see alive. Which is really good advice. Lobster is just one of those things that, first of all, it needs to be fresh. It can go off very easily. But I think in retrospect, because I've been, let's face it, it's hard to get fresh lobster right now during COVID. And I think that rule, I'm going to backpedal just a bit. I think that applies to restaurants. If I was ordering lobster in a restaurant, I'd want to see it like in the tank first, because you just never know what's going to happen in a restaurant. I'm going to talk about it. Here we are. I'm back. It probably looks the same to you guys, but it feels better for me. But I'm going to back it up, because this stuff here, which you can get at Costco, which is what we're using tonight, and I'll show you. So it's frozen. So this is it's cooked on the boat. The minute it comes out of the ocean, it's cooked on the boat and flash frozen, right on the boat, and then transported to Costco, wherever you want to buy it. To me, that's pretty good. In terms of, and I've used this before. I have bought other kinds of frozen lobster that were not good. I bought it in a can, which was disgusting. I bought the Phillips. The company's called Phillips, and they make a pasteurized little jar you can get in the seafood section next to the sardines in a supermarket. Also disgusting. And I bought even just frozen. I bought frozen lobster tails and chopped them up, and I was always disappointed with the way it turned out. So then I found this stuff, and I thought, well, I'll give it one more chance. And I'll tell you why this works out so great. Because that stuff made the best lobster mac and cheese I've ever made, even with fresh lobster. So when you unpack that guy, you get this. So it's the claw meat. I guess they take the tails and they sell them to people. So it's only the claw meat. And when you bust up a package, you get these like some large claw pieces, which look great for presentation. You just kind of put them on the top of the dish. And you have all of this other lobster meat that's all broken up, and I just stir this into the mac and cheese, and it forms like the base of the sauce, and it just works out great. So really happy with the way this turns out. This used to be inexpensive at Costco. It's not anymore. It's about $35 for a little package. Is that worth it? Well, yeah. I mean, sure. But I wouldn't probably be eating this every day. I mean, not if you're going to pay rent. Okay, so I'm going to put the lobster away too. So any questions so far? We've covered all of the ingredients. I'm going to start putting this together in just a sec, but I'm going to pause for just 1 sec. Well, no, because we only use half the cheese. So it's $25 worth of cheese, $35 worth of lobster. And then the other ingredients aren't really all that expensive. And it serves 4. I'm making a full recipe tonight. So yeah, quantities for tonight, guy, are for 4, because this is really good, and it actually happens to reheat okay, so I don't mind eating this the next day. Yeah. Oh, that's really good. Okay. Oh, I'm going to top it with chives at the end. That's why they're right there. I think we're ready to start cooking. So I'm just going to go ahead and fire this up. Got my burner here. And I get to use, haven't had a chance to use this yet. This is like a little antique copper pan I got at a thrift store. It's an amazing old vintage pan. The tin is still good. So when you're buying plates are in the oven. Thank you. They're ready to go. When you're buying vintage copperware, so first of all, modern copperware is garbage. It's not real copper, and it's not real tin on the inside. It looks amazing in your kitchen, and you can hang it up on the racks, and it looks fancy, and you really look what you're doing, but it's pretty shit. But the vintage stuff is fantastic. The only thing is the tin doesn't last forever. Like I don't get it now. I have another vintage one I got from my brother, and it needs to be re-tinned. So re-tinning is extremely unenvironmentally friendly. It's very caustic. It's terrible for the person who's doing it. So make sure your tin's in good shape. The tin lasts a very, very long time, but a few years down the road, it will need to be re-tinned, or you can just chuck it and start over. Okay, as I said, though, the first thing we got to do is get our shallots done, which is just going to take a couple minutes here. So do we have a vote on roasted garlic versus regular garlic? What do you guys think? This is going to be subtle and intense, and this is going to be like also not as subtle, a little more in your face. I'm kind of tempted to go with the confit to let the... Okay, we're going to roast it. Okay. All right. I've been called out. Oh, you guys are killing me. Okay, you know what I'm going to do? We're going to do this. I'm going to take... Oh, shit. One sec. Let's get like a really good roasted one. Can't have too much garlic. I can get a couple of these guys. Let me get these out. Ooh, this is still really hot. A little bit crusty there. So we're going to go 2 roasted. I hope this isn't hot. It's not? Okay, great. And 2 confit. You know, balance in all things. Okay, and we are going to use... oh my god, I almost poured this directly into the burner. Ooh, this gets hot. Okay, hang on. The problem with little tiny pans, they have little tiny handles. So we're going to use a bit of this oil, because we already have, again, always preserve flavor when you can. So this garlic confit was in the oven for 2 hours. This olive oil soaking up all that amazing garlic flavor. It makes sense to use it. And I need my shallots. So there we go. And we are just going to, these are going to take about, if you're doing this at home, go slow on these guys. It's really easy to burn your shallots, and we do want them to go brown. It should take about 4 minutes. We're probably going to do it in 2. So let's just see how it goes. I think we're missing Kingston and his crew tonight. $7.22. Okay. Yeah. Oh, I should put the pasta water on. Again, we have our pasta water back there. This stuff will cook in like probably just a couple minutes. Fresh pasta cooks extremely quickly, and even dried out, that stuff would probably go off in about 4 or 5 minutes. This is a cute pan. I'm not sure how practical it is. This probably makes more sense like on a flat top. And we're almost, you can see we're getting good color there. I don't want it to go black. A dark brown is fine, but I really don't want to see any black bits in there. So I'm going to pull this off in just a sec here. What do you guys think? I think it looks good. Smells amazing. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to give these guys a tiny little pinch of salt here. Okay, so I think that's good. So what we're going to do then is, because these go in together with the garlic later, so I'm just going to give the garlic things a good smush. Oh, I forgot the cool thing. I forgot the cool thing for this week. I used it earlier. I can't show you how to use it, but I'll show it to you in a sec. Alright, let's get that a little. So we can set this aside for now. The cool thing, I finally got around to getting one of these things. And it's really helpful for making pasta. It's just a bench scraper. If you do any kind of baking, you already know what this is. I don't bake, so I didn't have one. But it's just for like when you're making pasta dough and you're doing your first step and you got your well and your eggs and whatever. You can cut your. Oh, it's probably really loud. You can cut your dough. You can scrape it back into the center. Just a really, really handy tool. It's also good for cleaning dried flour and dough off your counter, which I also had to do. So, very handy. I want my water to boil, though. Yes, as I said, I think this pan would be better suited to like a flat top. Or even like a flat top stove, either an induction stove, although it wouldn't work on induction. But you know what I mean. You know those glass stoves that are really fancy that don't really work with the glass top that's all smooth? One of those. Okay, so the next step is, and we're talking techniques again, every mac and cheese recipe starts with a mornay, which is a bechamel with cheese in it. So it starts with a mornay that starts with a bechamel, which turns into a mornay. Oh, I need my pot. And every bechamel starts with a roux, which, as we all know, is butter and flour. So, any questions so far? I mean, it seems like this is a very straightforward dish. But as I said, throw it into the chat if you have a question or a comment while we wait for the butter to melt. Negroni's really growing on me. I have total respect for somebody who would substitute soda in a drink for gin. It just seems like a no-brainer to me. Water's not quite ready. So, while we're talking about roux, I did show off the pasta maker, didn't I? This one? We talked all about it. Oh yeah, I forget you guys can see both screens. That's the pasta maker. It's alright. Okay, so while we're talking about roux come in several different, well, it's just a degree of doneness. So every roux has to be cooked for at least 3 or 4 minutes over decent heat, because otherwise you can't cook off the taste. The flour needs to cook, and the taste of raw flour is not a nice taste at all, and it will ruin your dish. So always cook your roux for at least 2 to 3 minutes. And you can actually, okay, speaking of high heat, you can actually smell it when the flour's cooked up. Now, having said that, once you've done your initial 3 minutes, there are several levels you can take it to. So for us tonight, we want a blonde roux, which is, we're just going to do like 3 minutes. But if you were doing like, if you were doing like a gumbo, for example, you would take this roux and cook it slowly until it was like the color of peanut butter, which gives it an amazing nutty flavor and depth. It's also the difference between related thing between clarified butter and ghee. Clarified butter is really easy to make, and we did that a couple of weeks ago. The only difference between clarified butter and ghee is you cook ghee. If you're making ghee, you cook the butter longer so that the milk solids get a little bit brown and darker, and add that nutty flavor to your ghee. Whereas if you stop sooner, you have clarified butter. Okay, I gotta turn off the water for a second. Get ready for it. So this is looking good. I'd like to see the foaming settle down just a little bit, but we may not get a chance. I'm gonna go a couple more minutes. Any questions on a roux? Okay then. Okay, now you can see the foaming's gone down a little bit. This is sort of one of your visual clues. If you were here, you could hear it. I don't think you can hear it through the mic. This is now in its... This roux is done for a blonde roux, and we can continue cooking it and adding color to it. I don't want this one to be brown. So darker roux, if you were doing like a demi-glace later on or something like that, you would want it darker. If you were doing a, forgot the name of it. Well, or if you're doing a gumbo, for example, you'd want to take it to the color of peanut butter. But this is as dark as I want it to go. So we're going to start adding our milk. So a roux is a thickener. I mean, the reason you start with a roux, aside from the flavor, is it's going to thicken your final sauce. But the other thing you have to watch out for is now that we've got it mixed, you need to bring this, you can't use it like this. You need to bring this to a boil and let it simmer for a couple of minutes. If you don't, it won't thicken. I don't know why. If you look it up in McGee, it'll tell you. I just know that if you don't bring it to a boil, let it foam up, settle, it won't thicken properly. Okay, now I'm going to do the pasta while this is coming to a boil. I'm going to just grab some of the... I don't want that milk mixture to scorch on the side of the pan, which it will if I don't get it stirred in. If you're making, by the way, if you're making a roux, and this sucks when it happens, but if you're making a roux and you burn it and you get little black bits, you're done. You can't save it, chuck it, you gotta start over. It's kind of heartbreaking when you get a roux medium brown and you're starting to take it down and making an amazing gumbo, because believe me, to get it that brown takes a while, and to have those black bits start to show up, not fun, not a good feeling. Okay, I'm gonna put the pasta in the water. Stir. So ideally when you put your pasta in the water, you really don't want it to come off the boil. Mine did for just a second, not the end of the world. But you can't have too big a pot and you can't have too much boiling water when you're doing pasta, even if you're just doing a little bit. If you're doing a small portion of pasta, don't do it in a small pan with a little bit of water. Get the big pan or the big pot out and do it that way. So this is thickening up quite nicely. I just want to see it simmer for a second. I also don't want it to burn, so I'm going to go slow on this one. This is a dish worth being patient for. I mean, you should always take care in your cooking, but this dish would be a shame to have to ruin it and have it just start over. Especially when you're cooking with sort of premium ingredients. I can hear that the pasta is almost done. Then pasta boiled over. And this has just started to come up to a simmer. And you do want to see those first few bubbles pop up. Come on. There we go. Okay, so this tells me that now I can turn the heat down. And I'm going to let it simmer for a bit. That'll help thicken it. Oh, this is already, I love the consistency of this already. So I'm not going to take it too much further. And I have to deal with the pasta. Okay, so let's grab one of these guys. Have a little taste here. So you guys can see, there's our little gemelli. Perfectly cooked. Perfectly seasoned. Awesome. Love it. Wow, so good. Even just the pasta. Wow. Okay, so now get the heat all the way down. We're going to add in our garlic and shallots mix. Goes in. I want this to incorporate for just a minute or so. Build a little flavor. And then, oh, we'll give it a minute. We'll give it a minute. Seems good. I'm waiting for some kind of like signal or sign. I just want the consistency to come up the way I want. I think we're there. I think it's so. Okay. Add your cheese off the heat. I may put it back, but we're gonna start our cheese. A lot of cheese here. Right away, so generally I have enough heat, residual heat in the dish to handle the cheese, but since we've gone a little overboard on cheese, we're going to put it back in the heat for a sec. Be really careful at this place. A little heat goes a long way. The sauce is really sort of fragile at this point. But I do want it, I need it to melt, obviously. I'm going to go switch to stirring with this guy. Pick it up. So again, here I just keep it off, keep it moving. This is a little risky. Keep it moving, keep it off the bottom of the pan. We're just trying to add enough heat, which by the way is all cooking is adding heat to ingredients. But we're trying to get enough heat into this mix so that the cheese. Oh, look at that. Okay. I'm really liking the way this is shaping up here. Gonna go right down bare minimum here. And you can see with this consistency here why I wanted a spiral pasta. Like a macaroni would just go in and out of this without picking up the sauce, whereas those little spirals are gonna just grab every little bit of this. Okay, so the other thing we're going to do right now, let's give it a little like that way. Sorry, I should have had tasting spoons in earlier. I'm just going to taste it before I throw the pasta in. It's easier to taste it for seasoning. Needs to be hotter. We're going to warm this guy up. No one eats salt, which is why we're tasting it. Now I don't want to add, I'm not going to season this to full strength, as it were, because I know the pasta will have picked up, which it's supposed to, will have picked up salt from the pasta water, which is quite salty. Yeah, this is an amazing cheese to work with. This is stovetop. I'm just going to stir the pasta in and we're good to go. Yeah, that's it. Maybe like tiny little bit more. I think that's going to be good. Okay, so now that's in. Now we incorporate, and I'm not going to add pepper. So normally at this point I would add a few grindings of pepper, but I'm worried the pepper's going to overpower the lobster. So I'm going to go for this subtle. We built some amazing flavors in here with the garlic and the oil and everything else. I feel like pepper's just going to be like a harsh note on top, and I don't want to do that. That's just the shallots, the dark shallots. You can see them like little bits of shallots. And maybe the garlic too. Okay, so now we're going to go with, oh, you guys can, oh yeah, you can see. Okay, so all of this stuff, which is like the stuff that's not the whole meat, is going to go right in here. And this blends into the sauce in such an amazing way. So there we go. And that just gets incorporated into the sauce. We're going to let that go for like a minute or so. Again, I'm worried about the heat, but I think we're okay. I do want the lobster to warm up. Again, be careful at this point how you're adding heat. I'm making it sound like it's super fragile. It's not. This isn't like a luxurious piece of crystal, but, you know, be mindful. Okay, we're going to give that just a second. If I had to thin it out, I think I would just thin it with water. Although, given the spirit of the dish tonight, if I was going to thin this out, I would use butter maybe. Whip some more butter into it. Water would also work. This is quite rich, and I like the consistency. We'll see. The pasta will add some liquid to it as well, so we'll see how that goes. Speaking of pasta, I think it's time. I'm going to give this one final test for flavor. Yeah. Yeah, if I had been smart enough to save the pasta water, I could have used that. Okay. Let's get the, speaking of pasta, let's get some pasta in this thing. And I think it's going to take the whole thing. It is. I'm kind of eyeballing the quantities here. This would also serve 4 very hungry people. This is an enormous amount of food. Thankfully, it reheats beautifully. It's funny, mac and cheeses generally don't reheat, which is why I always make just a double portion. I'll hydrate in just a sec. I don't want to miss a stir here. Really happy with the way this looks. Okay. Now hydrate. And also, you don't want to serve this dish. This dish does not need to be served piping hot. This isn't a soup. And it's cheese pasta. So I think we're good there. And let's get this plated up. Again, this is probably too large a bowl to serve this. Obviously, this is a very rich dish. I'm really... Maybe I'll do both these at the same time. Come on. Really? Okay, fine. I had like a little hanger there. Plates are quite hot. And then just, you know what I wish I'd done? I'm going to do that super quick. Okay, so one of the things I was thinking was earlier, which I forgot to actually put into action, this is clarified butter. I just realized I normally have the claws warmed up. So we're going to take some clarified butter super quick. We're just going to tuck our claws into the clarified butter. We're going to flip them super quick. And I just want these, again, it doesn't need to be piping hot, but I don't want to serve cold lobster either. And I also don't want to overcook it. So this is just going into the butter, just enough to like give it some color and some flavor. Okay, let me just over here. I'm going to pop in some claws for myself in a second. Alright, this one's for banana sauce, and I'm just going to top this with some chives for color, and a little bit of extra flavor, mainly for color. And put this front and center for you guys. And there you go. So, I'm going to deliver this one, but I can't even hold it up. It's pretty hot. There you go. There's a lobster mac and cheese with petit basque cheese. And I will be right back. And that needs, like, probably a knife and fork. And we'll do a taste test of our own. All right. Gonna top my own with chives. So let's do a taste test. Oh. In a second, we'll do a taste test. A little less enamored of those pans now. Okay. Yeah. That is crazy. Pasta's perfect. Very al dente, but I like it that way. Incredible depth of flavor. Obviously, extremely rich. Okay, that's really good. I'm going to try it with grabbing a little bit of claw for extra flavor. Yeah. Let me go back to this one. Damn. This is now my favorite mac and cheese recipe. Well, favorite lobster mac and cheese recipe. I like the seasoning. I think the blend of roasted and confit garlic was right. I think maybe using all roasted may have been a little too forward on the garlic. Also, this is like a double portion. This is so rich. I can't possibly eat all this. Well, maybe. Okay. Well, that's all I got tonight, guys. Really happy with the way it turned out. And I think all of the tweaks that I made to the original recipe. So, as I said, if you want, you can make an amazing mac and cheese with lobster. Do everything we did here tonight. You can use just boxed macaroni, works great. You can use Jack and Cheddar for your cheese. It will be amazing. I will say that every tweak we made tonight, the homemade egg noodles kind of takes it up a notch. The cheese definitely is quite good. But you don't have to. Don't let that stop you from making this dish, because I'll tell you, the base one of this is just fantastic. So I am going to hang around for a few and try and get a few more bites of this down. It's just crazy good. Can't stop eating it. But I will for a sec. Say kind of good night. As always, thanks for watching. I love doing this for you guys. I think this is a fun dish. And we haven't talked about next week yet. We don't really have a plan for next week. So let me think about that. If you guys have any suggestions, you can throw them in chat now. Otherwise, I'll try and dream up something. We have a couple things kicking around, like from previous suggestions. We have a carbonara we haven't done yet. We have, okay, hang on, let me get the list. Oh, it's so honest. I don't want to leave my cheese. Okay. Well, tonight we did lobster mac and cheese. So we have the Crunchwrap Supreme, which I really want to get to eventually. It's not very serious, but it's really fun. An Indian style curry, which is actually an incredibly broad thing to write down. Carbonara. Irish stew, I probably not sure I can do that on stream because it takes a long time. General Tso chicken would be really fun. That's a Chinese American fusion dish, very classic 70s Chinese food. Somebody threw out appetizers at one point. I don't even know what that means. In terms of drinks, we still haven't done a pina colada. Lamb chops. Really? I can do lamb. I think if we're going to do lamb chops, you guys got to think of a side dish. We can't just do lamb. What goes with lamb? I don't know. So rich. It's ridiculous. Well, I could do like the the Moroccan style boneless leg of lamb thing I did. You know, you like, yeah. You lay it out, you roll it up with some aged thyme. Because, you know, I love that old time Moroccan roll. But, yeah, we can do that. Okay, I just stop, guys. Sorry. It's really good. But I'm going to hurt myself if I eat any more of this. Okay, so for next week, let me think about it. I got some good suggestions. You know, I have a little blue book. We haven't even done half of that, so I'm not going to run out of ideas. But I'm going to sign off soon, if you guys don't have any more questions. Enjoy my Negroni. I really like getting down to the cherry and eating it. And I just cannot stop with this. It's crazy. But I'll hang around for a couple for questions. Other than that, I'm done. I have to work Friday this week, which I'm not thrilled about, even though Monday was a holiday. But what can you do? I'll see everybody next week.